Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
It happens to be good afternoon, everybody. Yep. Welcome to Azure Flash News, episode 86. Episode 86. It also happens to be February 24th.
That's right. It's a Monday.
In case you're checking,
so it's actually not a Flash Friday.
No, we're not.
Which is fine because we're Flash News.
Yeah, that's right. We just kind of moved off the Friday thing.
Yeah. We moved off the Friday thing, but we certainly didn't stop bringing you the latest and greatest news from Azure.
Azure Flash.
That's right.
Still there.
That's right.
Now
absolutely. Some good stuff.
So, yeah. Do you want to preview the stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some great announcements around shared disks, which is really cool, and advancing some of the traditional, what looks like traditional workloads in the cloud. So that's awesome.
Yep.
We do have some vehicular stuff. We'll just say stuff.
That.
An awesome blog post that was published not that long ago by Mark Rusinovich in regards to how we actually do things in Azure from I'll say an operational perspective, and leave it at that.
Yep.
We've got some cool new single pane of glass features for backups. Backups. Yep. Very cool preview of Active Directory stuff. I'm not going to give it away.
I'm just going to keep it.
Yep, not going to give it away. In fact, it was posted today, so late breaking, hot off the presses, as they say.
Yes.
Except we don't have presses.
No, the digital press.
And another cool new feature that's available via private endpoints.
Yes.
Private endpoints.
A new private endpoint feature.
And
leave it at that.
What I will say is at some point, so collectively as a group, I watched some of the really big brains here at Microsoft, and I believe you were part of those discussions around private endpoints. They've actually done some really cool stuff around, I'll say, not skunkworks, but POCing, doing a POC with private endpoints and domain forwarders and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
At some point, I really want to have one of those people, and maybe you can represent them. Otherwise, we could have Mr. Lunzer or Mr. Sullivan or somebody. It's super, super cool. But what I want people to understand is there are a few complexities with private endpoints, but if you know kind of what you're looking for, it makes it a lot easier. So they've done all the heavy lifting for you. So selfishly, I encourage you to stay tuned if we can bring that episode in. It'll definitely be a time saver for you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, dude.
Disks. Okay.
So you thought this was really cool,
so
do I.
Okay, so I remember back in the day, back when I was a little boy, we had to walk to
both ways in the
uphill
snow.
Both ways in the snow.
15 miles.
Yes.
Each way.
And so what we're talking about here is shared disks for clustered applications. And so
this is an industry first, by the way.
Yeah, this is crazy. So what we're bringing to you is a limited right now. Limited preview of industry first shared cloud block storage. What that means is, and if you kind of scroll down a little bit farther here, you'll notice that we're talking about stuff that runs on a SAN that needs to connect to two members of a cluster, and it needs to fail over with the failover. In other words, things like SQL Server failover cluster instances. So I just remember saying things like, this is just not possible.
I know.
And so we've been saying that for so long.
But
fast forward 3 or 4 years.
Dude.
And here it is.
Well, and we've got a great graphic. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a fantastic graphic that kind of represents, a
shared data disk.
Totally.
I love this.
And you're right. I remember, when we didn't have managed disks, when we were first kind of starting out, storage was the limiting factor there, right? I mean, you couldn't share disks. We had some limitations. We were in a multi-tenant environment. We've gotten past all that. We've got managed disks. We've
premium
got
disks.
Exactly. We've come a long way, baby.
Oh yeah.
And this is super cool.
So if you have applications that need a shared disk to operate across a cluster, so this is a very to be completely frank, this is a very data center-centric architecture. But we want to bring those architectures to the cloud without necessarily having to change them. So So you might need to bring a SQL cluster to Azure. And that's okay. You can do that now.
Absolutely. And so you need to use common Windows and Linux-based cluster manager like Windows Server Failover Cluster, Pacemaker, or Coral Sync for node-to-node communication. And that's basically to enable write locking, right? Because otherwise you get into contention and you probably run into some issues there. With Azure Shared Disks, because you can leverage multiple VMs, you also have to use those common capabilities, but that's not something that people aren't familiar with, right? I mean, if you're doing clusters, if you're doing shared disk, you're already probably using one of those tools anyway. Which is really, really exciting. But there's a couple examples in here. There's model training for machine learning, where you've got a shared disk scenario for a clustered application. Obviously, you've got clusters for workloads like SQL Server, right? You probably have shared disk for other things where, Well, it might be content related, right? I mean, it could be any number of scenarios.
Yep.
I mean, we all know that clusters have been around forever and a day, and now we're just making it really easy to kind of emulate or replicate that same scenario, but in the cloud.
Now, the one I have up right here, the picture I have up here, is titled Model Training for Machine Learning. So you can actually see here that what we're doing here is in Azure VM 1, we're granting write to disk.
Yep.
And then for Azure VM
read
3, 3, and 3, which I have a feeling it's supposed to be 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
that's okay.
Yep.
These are granted read, and so it's a scale out of your read capability.
And what's kind of interesting about this is, to me, this is somewhat synonymous to how we do our PaaS services, where when we provision an instance, we still have shared storage behind the scenes. So in your Kudu environment, if you go in there, you'll see D drive home.
Yep.
And if you have 3 instances, that maps to the same D drive home.
Yeah.
So it's somewhat synonymous, but I'm sure there's a whole much more complexity that goes into this than what we have to do for that platform.
Yeah.
But super cool, right? I mean, this is awesome.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting here. It talks about Azure shared disks versus Azure files.
Oh, I know. I caught that.
Yeah, and provides access to. Yeah. Anyway, so if you have workloads that are shared disk aware, you really should check this out and start reading about it. It's in a limited preview for right now, which means we're not supporting it quite everywhere yet.
Correct.
But if you have a workload like this, check it out. And a lot of times you can actually.
There is a request access link at the bottom of this article, by the way.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking about. You got right here, request access. So anyway.
So really the differentiation here, though, is if you're looking for a fully managed, file service, something that's completely managed for you and you're really out of the business of the infrastructure and all that stuff.
Completely out of.
That's where you're going to use Azure Files or NetApp, right? That's where you can use the NetApp solution. So if you need SMB or NFS, that's where you're going to leverage that type of service.
Because it's just an endpoint to you that has storage behind it. That's it.
Exactly.
But in this case, we're talking about you have servers that you need to attach a disk.
And to your point, it may only be read, it may be read write, it may be write.
So that way you can kind of tweak it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
if you need something completely managed, look to Azure Files and Azure NetApp.
Yep. No, this is awesome. And so the last thing I'll say there is that Azure Shared Disk gives you a consistent experience for apps running on cluster today, which means that any app that leverages SCSI persistent reservation can use this set of commands to register a node in the cluster for that disk. So if you're already doing these things on-prem, you can do it in the cloud. So awesome.
Very cool. That's a big one. That's a big change. That's a big change.
Totally.
To have this kind of capability coming about. So
yeah, couldn't agree more.
Okay, connected vehicles, man.
So we're hearing about autonomous cars. We're talking about connected cars. We're hearing about the connected cabin or the connected cockpit in the car, right? All these new capabilities are being surfaced, and while Microsoft doesn't necessarily play specifically in the car space, we do a ton of work behind the scenes to provide that connected car experience, right?
When you said connected cabin, I was
not that kind of cabin.
Because we're in Minnesota, everyone has a cabin up in the woods. And
of course.
I was thinking, well, connected cabin, that would be the thermostat, the video system. I was like, I'm on board, connected cabin. Then
connected car, drive me to my connected cabin.
Right. No, connected cabin.
I'm sorry, connected cockpit.
Yeah. I know what I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, so I mean, it's cool, right? And you're seeing trends like mobility as a service, right? So we're taking these kind of offerings and we're mashing them up to provide, these out-of-the-box kind of solutions, like, for example, with mapping in TomTom, right? So that's a good example of where you could provide update navigation systems with real-time weather, real-time traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of cool little pieces in here, right?
Yeah.
And the big piece of this, though, too, is you've got to have ridiculous scalability, right? You've got to have occasionally connected scenarios. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, the most important part is security. Because as cars get more and more computerized or run by computers, the more and more concerned I am that somebody hacks basically into your vehicle, whether it's the CAN bus or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're going down the freeway at 70 and your car takes a hard right because it thinks it's parallel parking.
Right.
No, thank you.
It's like speed.
Yeah, yes, exactly. At that point, I will be looking for that 1969 Camaro. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
For the people who have
Look at this dude.
You can do green screen entrance.
I know, Azure Everywhere socks.
Azure Everywhere socks.
Dude, do we have to
roast? When you always say,
yeah,
You know?
What? Oh, keep your fingers on the keyboards and your head in the clouds.
Now
Keep
you
your
keep
feet in the clouds. Dude, these are awesome.
Oh,
Sorry, I was just,
and
intruding
for
on your
those-
show in a humorous way.
I
So
love them.
happy
That's
Azure Flash
awesome.
News.
I think.
Yeah.
I think. Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah. Why don't you say something?
How would you guys feel about an Azure Everywhere Cloud Sock giveaway?
Yes, let's do it.
Go ahead. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're watching us on YouTube, tweet us at Twitter. Say, I would love the socks, and we'll
How about a hashtag? Give them a
hashtag. Good call.
What hashtag should we use? Azure Socks.
Azure Socks from Azure Flash News. What, it's got to be something. What
you
can
have
we do?
to mention Azure Flash News.
Yep.
That's one thing you have to do.
Okay.
And then hashtag Azure Socks.
Azure Socks.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta get that in there.
We'll do it for say a week.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the week,
I'm kind of hoping that by the time I post this afternoon, somebody has it before too long. We'll
love
see.
it. So we'll run it for a week, and at the end of the week, not only this, but I do have the mugs in house now
Yes,
for
we
other
have
giveaways as
mugs.
well. So this will be our first official giveaway.
Yeah.
But we're going to
Maybe
follow
we'll give
that
away
up.
a mug too, right?
Well, we could absolutely give away a mug for the second person to do it. In fact,
Alright.
I've got some mugs that I'm already boxing up, getting ready to ship out
just
for
put
some
a
folks
sticker on 'em.
for folks that tweeted us.
Oh, yes, that's
Yeah.
right. We got some tweets last
Yeah,
week.
yes, we
so
did.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So okay,
Awesome.
now back to our regularly
Okay,
scheduled
anyway.
program.
A little bit of a tangent.
Little bit.
But now we're back. Where are we? We're at Connected Car.
We are at Connected Car. So again, to me, security is the big piece, right? But you're
Yeah.
seeing some really big gains in there. People are actually taking it very seriously. It's really kind of cool. Like you've got the Volkswagen Automotive Cloud, which selfishly I think is really cool because of my Audi.
You're kind of excited about your Audi.
I am very excited about my Audi, but
You
so
haven't
some
had
of
it
these.
that long.
No, not
Kind of
just
in the honeymoon period.
totally.
Still.
And I've been doing some upgrades. But you've got Ericsson, you've got LG Electronics, you've got is it Faurecia? I believe it's pronounced. Obviously Bell.
I think so.
Bell Air, aircrafts. I'm sorry.
Bell
Bell.
Aircraft.
What's the official name of the Bell
I actually
Aerospace
don't-
Engineering?
I
I apologize, Bell. I'm really sorry. I should know that, but I don't.
Well,
But they revealed Aero OS, so Aero
Oh.
OS, right, which is a digital mobility platform giving an operator a 360 view into the aircraft fleet. So, I mean, so this is just some of the innovation that's happening now, and the expectation is that you've got real-time diagnostics in your vehicle, perhaps you've got collision avoidance, you've got preventative maintenance, as we all know is really critical, especially if you're in the aircraft space. Just a lot of cool things that are happening, and I'm really honored to be a part of a company like Microsoft who recently partnered with, Verizon or no AT&T? I'm sorry, AT&T bringing 5G to the edge, which is going to I think help to accelerate the adoption of this technology by making that connectivity ubiquitous.
Yep.
So just some really cool things. So it's an interesting read if you're like me, if you appreciate automobiles and also the technology that's going into them. This is a good read. Some of the stuff, we've got some announcements we made at CES where we demonstrated our in-vehicle compute and architecture, which is kind of cool. But
yeah, and I think that over time, as cars become more and more autonomous, I think we're kind of in a lull right now as the technology catches up a little bit, and we're in a lull, but nobody has stopped working. There's still lots of people. There's a race on for the autonomous car.
There really
is. It
is.
may still be 5 years away.
Yeah, and I'm okay
or
with
maybe
that.
even 10 years. But either way, I have a feeling, Rick, that we'll both, by the time we retire, we won't need to drive our own cars.
And that
we
makes-
may want to drive our own
Okay,
cars.
I was gonna say that makes me happy, but it makes me sad.
You may want to, and that's okay. My
Because-
guess is that you'll have a chance. But also, if you want to go somewhere and not have a driver, my guess is that we won't
Agreed.
have to go to the doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
as we
no,
kind
I-
of make
I agree with
that
you.
march going, the connectedness of the car is going to be critical because the compute required at the edge to do this is very big. But one way to kind of bridge that gap is 5G and cloud computing.
Absolutely.
So we kind of have always said
And scale.
Yeah, and scale. Cloud, intelligent cloud,
Yep.
intelligent edge.
Absolutely.
And Microsoft is one of the companies that can help you do both.
Yep, absolutely. No, very cool. I'm geeking out on the car thing.
Yeah, I know. You love your car.
Okay, so
I do too. I love your car.
we appreciate Mark Rusinovich,
Yeah.
right? He's somewhat of a legend. No, he is a legend, right? In our
He's not
industry, let's
somewhat
be
of a
honest. No,
legend,
right. Sysinternals, if you've ever done anything with Sysinternals, that's
Mark.
Rusinovich. He's authored fiction books. He's and quite
Thrillers.
frankly,
I think they're kind of fiction, thriller fiction.
And of course, he's the chief technology officer for
Azure.
Microsoft Azure. So have a lot of respect for the
he
guy.
knows
Yeah,
the thing.
and by the way, he retweeted us not that long ago.
No, that's right. He most certainly did.
So,
Thank
yeah,
you very much for that,
just a
Mark.
little
If you
bit of
happen
that.
to be listening.
Thank you, Mr. Rasinovich.
Yep, we appreciate that.
But what's cool here, so there's this particular blog post is around advancing safe deployment practices. Now, what the heck does safe deployment practices mean? I mean, what is that? I mean, it sounds like it sounds like I'm not going to say what it sounds like.
Something I've highlighted here if you happen to be watching on YouTube, but I've highlighted the sentence where Mark says, "Today we'll describe our safe deployment practices." And so this is all about how Microsoft does deployments.
Yep.
And I think we can take a couple of 3 things away from this.
Oh yeah.
One is it's always cool to hear.
Yes.
Because it's just kind of cool.
Yep.
But secondly,
well, at scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the scale we're dealing with is it's always kind of fun to hear how these problems get solved. But in addition to that, I think it's also interesting to hear a little bit about it because it can help with your comfort level with what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Kind of like open the kimono, as they say.
Yes.
Although I'm not real crazy about that phrase,
I know
but
it's not quite PC.
No,
there's got to be a better term.
Yeah, to kind of
see how the sausage
pull
is
back.
made?
No, not that one either. How about pull back the curtain?
Fair. I like that one. Okay.
And so this way you kind of get an idea about what we're doing behind the scenes, because sometimes it can help you kind of, whenever you have the question of how do can I hold on to my updates? Like, I don't want you updating my part of the hardware, which of course is like not possible because it's a multi-tenant world. So we can't hold yours back.
Or you may say definitely do it when there's something like the Spectre or the Spectre, right? We had 1 million servers patched in 5 days.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
But this kind of gives you a little bit of view into what's going on.
Oh, totally.
So
and not only that, but I've had customers come to me and say, hey, we want to do change management.
Right.
How do we do that?
Right.
How does Microsoft do that?
Yes, it's a chance for you to learn what we're doing.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we're publishing it. It's not only to teach you more about what we're doing, like as in just informing you, like, hey, by the way, this is what we do in case you were curious.
Yeah.
But also learn from this.
Absolutely. You may have a canary ring where you've got, maybe you have let's say you're a software company. You've got a canary ring for third-party integration, right?
Yep.
You've got a pilot phase where you're rolling it out to a set of customers that are agreed to work with you in that type of setting for a discount or for whatever it is.
Yep.
Then you've got early adopters who are kind of, you're making sure it's super, everything's like the way to go. And then finally you're doing your broad rollout across different regions. You can do the same exact thing with your software.
Yep.
And the nice thing about this too is these situations can be turned on, turned off, elastic, all the stuff that you would expect to have from the cloud, but you're doing it in a very safe, very predictable, very reliable way. And it helps you avoid, the deployment practice instead of just going, boom, let's just put this in production. No, and I wanted to just kind of, basically, there's some myths out there. I think people just assume, well, they just roll it out.
No.
It's not how it works.
No,
so anyway, it's a really good read. It talks about how we prevent broad outages by, rolling changes through these different phases, this change pipeline. But on such a grand scale, we're now up to 56 regions, and by the time we hit that 56 region, it's rock solid.
Yeah, and I think you also start to have some appreciation for when we say it takes a few weeks for it to roll out across regions, and this is why it's very sophisticated. And once again, I kind of say this, and it's a little bit silly, but a lot serious. Is sometimes I'm just amazed.
Oh my God! Yeah.
That we can have so many developers all over the world working on this one service we call Azure, which is broken down into little pieces, but it works. And these are the kinds of processes that it takes to make it work.
Yep. And this is when you're mature, when you've done it as long as we've done it, you end up with these types of processes. So really cool. Again,
check it out.
Big shout out to Mark.
Thanks,
Love
Mark.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mark is always kind of like, he's very pro sharing of this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And I think that just to take a quick tangent for a second on Mark, he has always been a big antagonist of Microsoft in the beginning about not being very clear as to what is and is not going on inside of Windows.
Yeah.
And so he was like, well, you won't tell me? Fine.
I'll show you.
I'll write the tools
sysinternals
to do this. I'll write sysinternals. I'm not, there's no way you're going to hide this from us.
Exactly.
And so he wrote the tools. And I think that Mark has been a big driving factor in the change in our culture and our transparency and how we work with customers. And
the new open source era of Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, Mark was big into saying we've got to embrace Linux, we've got to make this work. And,
absolutely.
And so, thanks, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Totally. Okay.
Are there any backup administrators in the house? In the house.
I guess we could all raise our hand, right? Technically,
That's right.
We could.
Yep.
So Backup Explorer, and I'm just going to go right to the punchline. Boom.
Go.
Backup.
Don't bury the lead.
Backup Explorer is now available in preview. So up until now, you could use Recovery Services Vault just to get kind of a bird's eye view of items that are being backed up in that particular vault. But it's scoped to that vault, right? So jobs, policies, alerts, et cetera, et cetera. But as your backup estate expanded, it got to be, right? You got multiple vaults. So now it's almost like a onesie, right? So you had to write some customizations. You had to do some special dashboards. And every time you rolled out a new vault, you had to, so wow, a lot of work.
Yeah. We need a single pane of glass.
Oh, it just so happens we have
one.
That's right.
Now.
So we now available is Backup Explorer. And it gives you the ability via a single pane of glass to go ahead and look at your entire backup estate, all your backup vaults, all your policies, all your alerting status, et cetera, et cetera. So and I know, yeah, this isn't like, ooh, that's really awesome, but it kind of is because, again, as we're putting more and more stuff in the cloud, we're expecting you, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, to take more of an onus and responsibility on this type of thing. And the easier we can make it for you, the better. So I'm glad to see they're trying to make it as easy as possible and creating the Explorer not just for your storage, but now for your backups as well.
Yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get drill downs into what's going on inside the backups, and anyway, it's really great. So if you're using Azure Backup, you really need to check this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're an Azure Lighthouse user, by the way, you can view information across all your tenants, which is cool.
Yeah. So for those of you who are just enterprise users, I mean just, but
just those little enterprise users,
then this may not quite add up this much. But if you're, a lot of times this hits in sort of that middle SMB tier, where they want help managing their Azure or their IT environment, and you can use what's called Lighthouse to have partners help you manage it while still maintaining control.
Exactly.
And so if you're on the other side, if you're one of those partners managing your customers,
multi-tenant,
like their Azure tenants, which to you is multi-tenant.
Yeah, right.
You can use this to see the backups across all of your customers.
Absolutely. So that's a big single pane of glass.
Yeah. We really embrace the partner ecosystem, and enabling these sort of managed service providers is something that we really want to do.
Yep. No, it's a great point.
Okay. Well, this is kind of the other half of the.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Nice work, Rick. It's like somebody put some thought into
what
article.
I know it seems that way, but I'll be honest, I grabbed this one simply because it's cool.
Yeah.
And it was literally hot off the press.
Well, and it's always great, for those listening, they have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know.
This is the preview of Active Directory authentication support on Azure Files. So, and this is very clearly Active Directory, not Azure Active Directory.
Right, correct.
This is different.
Just exactly.
Yeah, so you can now mount your Azure Files using AD credentials. Yeah.
Yep.
And so you get the same the same experience you get on-prem.
And you can leverage Active Directory domain service either hosted or on premises.
Oh, yes.
So you can use your on-premises AD Active Directory domain controllers. Thank you.
And if you want to use ours, we have ADDS, Active Directory Domain Services, which is a part of, it's basically hosted domain controllers.
Yeah.
And we can help you do that if that interests you, or you can host your own if you want. That's
absolutely, that's fine. So it's cool you manage file. So managing the file permissions or the ACLs, the access control list, is simple, right? As long as your AD identities are synced to Azure AD, you can continue to manage the share level permission. Okay, so at the share level, you can manage those permissions through role-based access controls or RBAC. We talk about that a lot. And for directory and file level permissions, you simply configure Windows ACLs or NTFS DACLs, I guess is how you would say that, right?
I like that. You just made that up.
Well, that's what they say.
Oh, did they say? Oh, yeah, you didn't make it up.
But you can do it using Windows File Explorer.
Whoa.
I know, right? Windows File Explorer, just like any regular file.
So I'm just going to make sure I understand. We can have share level permissions.
Yeah.
And we can have file and folder level permissions.
Yeah, and you can do it right through Windows File Explorer.
Wow.
I know, or Windows File Explorer. I'm sorry. I used the full official term there.
So in other words, and what that means is you get a server or your machine, you connect, you mount it, and then you start using permissions.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's not SMB, right? I mean, we're talking about all your existing NTFS, DACLs, and all the other stuff that you do today on-prem.
This has been an issue. Let's just be honest.
I know.
Like we've needed this for a while now. Now we can breathe.
It totally is, because when Azure Files came, You know, I think everybody made the
we were
the
like,
assumption,
yes, Azure Files,
and then we're like,
wasn't quite,
not quite right.
not quite there. But
It's
sometimes it takes a journey.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things take a little while.
Well, if it were easy, it would have been done a long time ago, right?
Right. And the other way to think about it, the other way I think about it is, we could have had a choice.
Mm-hmm.
We could have had nothing until now.
Yep.
And had them release it with this.
Yep.
Or they can get done with the first iteration, which didn't have some of the things we needed, but it had something, so that some people who had the scenarios that worked in the beginning can go ahead and start using it, and then we can start building out what customers need, because then we can start getting feedback. You know what I really need is,
what else would you like to see?
We need Active Directory integration.
Exactly.
Okay, we have it now.
Yep. No, that's awesome. So very exciting. So this is, and of course, because storage is stored in triplicate at a minimum, like using locally redundant storage, this is an opportunity for you to potentially move away from really expensive on-premises equipment, hardware, software, et cetera, and then leverage the Azure Azure Files, which of course, again, from a storage perspective, you're only paying for what you use. So big deal. Big deal there, potential cost savings.
And Azure Files, just so you know, Azure Files is a part of a storage account.
Yep.
And so if you want to use Azure Files, go to the storage account, create your storage account, and then you can fire up Azure Files shares there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we also support now up to 100, is it 100 gig direct share size?
100 terabytes.
100 terabytes.
100
Thank
terabytes,
you. Yes. Sorry, gig. I could
100
put
gigs.
two movies up there.
Yeah. Nothing. No,
Scoop
100
of
terabytes.
chocolate, scoop of vanilla.
Yeah.
Don't waste my time.
No,
Do you know what movie?
No.
City Slickers.
I have seen Sadie Slickers, but
It's when
not recently enough.
Okay, well, I won't bore you with the details. If you're watching this and you got that reference, feel free to tweet me. You'll get mad kudos and potentially some swag.
Yeah.
All right.
Baby fish mouth.
Yeah, baby.
Right?
Yes.
Right? That's
No,
that's When Harry Met Sally.
Oh my gosh.
Wrong movie. Okay.
Right guy, wrong movie.
Right guy, wrong movie. Okay. Now the last one is Azure Key Vault private endpoints now in preview. Yes.
Again, this private endpoints, we've been so excited about it for so long, and you're slowly seeing these services trickle in. Right?
It takes a little while. Like, we have to build the stuff out. This is why I always explain this to people, is I'm like, first of all, everybody wanted a multi-tenant cloud. They're like, I don't want hosting. I already have that. Multi-tenant cloud.
Yeah.
So we did it. And then everybody said, no, I don't want that. I want a private cloud. But I want it to coexist with a multi-tenant cloud.
Yep.
I want it to be at the price of a multi-tenant cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody liked what the single tenant cloud was.
Ooh.
Rack space.
Yeah. Colo 2.0.
Colo 2.0, right? But everybody wanted a multi-tenant cloud, but have their own private, it's like having your cake and eating it.
But treating it like a single tenant environment.
Right.
Or private cloud environment.
And so now what we're seeing is the reintroduction, if you will, of private endpoints.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually kind of call this private endpoint, but the reintroduction of using a VNet private endpoint to connect these multi-tenant resources.
In a back end private IP.
Yeah. Right.
What's the best word I'm looking for? In a fashion.
Yeah.
In that fashion, right? Because what we're doing is we're giving you the ability to, when you don't have to treat something like a pet, don't put it on an Azure web app, put it on storage, put it on Azure SQL database, whatever it is, and then you can use private endpoints to effectively block traffic from the public internet and very securely and reliably connect to it from VNets, from other services, a whole host of other things. And not only that, but you can provision services in Azure and then enable private endpoints into other people's VNets, for example. So it's not just our PaaS capabilities that we're doing this for. So this is a really exciting announcement, though, because Key Vault, of course, it's an important piece of your infrastructure. Hopefully, most of you out there are using it, following the valet pattern, just-in-time credential requests, that kind of stuff. But now, again, of course, another situation where you can securely, block it off from the public. You can and create a scenario where you're carving out your own little space in the cloud.
I have been spending some time working with Key Vault, not using private endpoints because, of course, it wasn't available.
Right, until now.
Last week.
Yeah. A couple,
When was this?
7.
So that's 2 weeks. Well, it's been available 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Where have we been?
I know, geez, holy cow.
Busy, that's all. Anyway, so I've been working on kind of like the small example, if you have Azure Functions, which requires a storage account, how do we provide the infrastructure deployment to put the key in a key vault and then rotate that key back into the config for the functions so that it stays connected to the storage account even when you rotate the keys.
Good.
So that's what I've been working on a little bit. Is it maybe next week demo time?
Please.
All right, so we'll do that. I've had a lot of people ask me about key rotation. It's not, there are some special situations and frankly, they're easier in app services. There's kind of some special config there, but I can definitely take some time and do a demo. It's really helpful to understand kind of how this actually starts to go because everybody says they want to do key rotation.
I know.
And when it comes time to do it, it's like,
oh, it's too much work.
What do we do? It can't be too much work. We have to make this easier.
Exactly.
We have to make this easier. So I really want to share with you guys. It's not that hard. It really isn't.
No.
It's just some stuff you have to build.
Yep.
You can do it, and I'm going to help you do it.
Awesome.
We'll do it. Okay.
Very cool. Awesome.
Is that it?
That's it. Some great topics today. I'm glad to be back on the bench chatting with you, dude.
Yeah, me too.
It feels like it's been forever in cloud years.
I know, it really has. It's been a couple weeks. But we're back.
We are.
It's Monday, and I'm actually headed to San Antonio later today.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Good for you.
Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna be nice and warm there. I got to figure out what to pack.
So if you're not driving, right?
No.
Okay.
So I have a flight.
So if you're flying, and maybe somebody wants to get a hold of you, and you can,
asynchronous get a hold of me.
Yep.
Although actually I might be online working, but because
don't tell people.
Well, I got to get some work done.
Fair.
But
how do they get a hold of you?
mgarner@microsoft.com or @mgarner on Twitter. Although the best way to get in touch of us on Twitter is
at Azure Flash News.
Yes.
Which I won't be on a plane, so I'll be watching our Twitter feed, and
feel
free to message us, public, private.
I'm gonna have to get this published before I get on the airplane.
Totally. Oh yeah, good call. Or of course you can reach out to me directly, Rick WEY@microsoft.com.
Yep.
And as always, thank you so much to the facility, the MTC facility run by Mr. Splinter,
and who came in,
stopped in and provided the socks.
We love it.
Yep, we do. And of course to Emily Mackmiller, who has been extremely flexible, extremely what a team sport, or team player she's been. Just
absolutely.
Like totally dealing with the prima donnas.
Do you know we couldn't do without her?
Not at all. Not at all. She brings us our red M&Ms. She's
red M&Ms. She brought them to you, not me.
No, that's right. No, thank you so much to the MTC. Without your support, we could not do this.
No, absolutely not.
So awesome.
That's it.
That is it. And
that's the show.
Of course, we look forward to chatting with you next time. New topics, new subjects, all kinds of chocolatey goodness. But until that point comes, keep your fingers on the keyboards and your head in the clouds.
And your feet in your cloud socks.
And your feet in the cloud socks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.